We might get into that
You're
a little
not
bit
love,
later.
Love?
I'm not into this fugazi made-up holiday where we have to spend lots of money.
I love love.
I'll get into it.
That's my hot take.
I think Ramie's girlfriend's lying to him. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always. A lot to get to with you up until about 4:30, and then we've got game night with the Phoenix Suns Kings later tonight, of course. Game night, 4:30, pregame, game, postgame, all that good stuff. And let's start with the Kings, Ramie. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. When you look at these two guys, they're one of the better of the 1-2 punches that you could have representing your team. And when you look around the Western Conference, it might not be as deep as you might think with the 1-2 punch with all the injuries, right? I mean, you look at the Clippers, and yes, they have a great 1-2 punch, but how much is Kawhi going to play? Anthony Davis, LeBron, same thing with AD. And when you look at this Kings 1-2 punch, you might ask the question, and I know, Ramie, you had this question yesterday during the show meeting.
I asked Zach Harper this question.
Are they actually, Fox and Domas, are they actually the best 1-2 combination in the Western Conference? Here was Zach Harper's answer to that.
Jokic and Murray have been pretty good. You know, like it's hard for me to go against them because Jamal Murray, I don't think he just looks back. Like I think this is the best basketball he's played outside the bubble. So I would give them the nod, especially just because Jokic is so ridiculous. But after that, like, yeah, it's hard to argue against what Fox and Domas have been for the Kings versus any other team. I mean, it's not like, you know, we're putting Luka and Spencer Dinwiddie up there, right? Like the 1-2 punch in the West hasn't really been there for a lot of teams. It should be Kawhi and Paul George, but they miss games so often that they're not there. So yeah, I think Fox and Domas are up there with anybody that's not Jokic and Jamal.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Do you think Domas and Fox are the best, or would you go with Harper? Because before we had this conversation with Zach yesterday, pull the curtain back, we were going to do this a different kind of feel, but the idea of the 1-2 punch we were going to talk about yesterday. And I was going to actually go with Jokic and Murray. I did not want to sound like I was jumping off of Zach Harper's coattails here,
right.
But I think it is Jokic and Murray. Do you think it's Jokic and Murray?
Okay. The one in the 1-2 punch, they have the advantage.
No doubt.
Like Jokic is a 2-time MVP.
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and argue that De'Aaron Fox or Domas are better than, but do you think they're better at the 2 in the 1-2 punch? Because I might push back on that.
Well, so you think Domas would be the 1 in the 1-2?
Yes. And then Fox would be the 2.
Is Murray better than Fox is your question?
Yes. Because I'm looking at the comp right now, and De'Aaron Fox is averaging almost 5 more points per game. He's played in 5 more games. He's shooting 4 percentage points better. If you want to go by per 36, he's 4 points better there. He's shooting a better clip, a better effective field goal percentage. Not to mention, he's been one of the best finishers and closers, if not the best finisher and closer, not just in the Western Conference, but in the NBA this year, when you talk about what he's done in the fourth quarter of games and in clutch time. So I'm not necessarily ceding that Jamal Murray is better than De'Aaron Fox. Jamal Murray, because of what he did in the bubble, maybe has a little bit more name recognition, a little bit more, I don't know, headline status than De'Aaron Fox might. But I'm just going on what these guys have done this year. And Jamal Murray, he's back. He's back to that form that he had before the injury. But has he been better than De'Aaron Fox?
Okay, so it might not be fair to De'Aaron for this, but I would lean Murray because of what you just said. I've seen Jamal Murray do it in the playoffs. I've seen him say, "Jump on my back, fellas, and let's go." I've seen that crazy series when it was Jamal versus Donovan Mitchell, when both guys were just outrageous. But that was
fun.
But it is really close. I mean, both I would say are, below average, slightly below average defenders. If you look at defensive rating, Jamal is a better shooter, but Fox is better at the rim and better downhill. So it's pretty tight. But what I want to ask you, beyond that, because I would lean, as you said, the 1 is no doubt. Jokic is just so good. The Nuggets have the best 1-2. I ask you, what is the ceiling for Domas and Fox in the Western Conference? What is the ceiling for the Kings 1 and 2? And I want to ask the people that. 916-339-1140 is the text line. 1-800-920-1140 is the phone number. Phone lines are open for you. What is the ceiling, Ramie, of Domas and Fox as your 1-2 punch?
Oh, that's a tough one. And we're talking in the Western Conference. How highly could they rank in the Western Conference? Because there's a lot of what if in the Western Conference, isn't there? Especially now with a couple of trades that have been made
it's
recently.
wide open.
You mentioned the Clippers. You look at the Mavericks. If they can keep Kyrie and Luka together, man, those are two of the most talented, dynamic basketball players walking this planet right now. And if Kyrie is on the court consistently with Luka, that could be a very special thing. The Phoenix Suns just traded for Kevin Durant to put him on the wing with Devin Booker. Like, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker can stay on the court consistently, that could be a very special thing. You mentioned what's going on in Denver. So there's a lot of what if in the Western Conference. But I look at Domas and Fox, and I know it's only their first year doing it, but that's almost the reason why I have more faith that they can sustain this, stay together, be on the court consistently, because what comes with all those other what ifs, Nick, is a long track record of question marks about these guys' availability, their health. A lot of these duos, at least one of the guys in the duo is getting up there in years in their early to mid 30s. I don't see any reason why they can't be the first or second best 1-2 punch in the Western Conference for a few years to come. Who's to say what other moves are going to happen? And like I said, a lot of these other what ifs could go positively for these other duos that we're talking about. But
Right.
I just look at the Clippers and I can't put a lot of faith that they're going to be able to follow through on that. Dallas with Kyrie, Phoenix with KD and his injury history. Like there's just too long a track record of question marks for me to go, oh yeah, no, they're going to be able to keep it together and do this for a long time.
See, I like you looking at this from the 1-2 punch, from just breaking down the two guys, because I actually look at the team. And to me, the team, the ceiling of this team with Fox and Domas as your 1-2 punch, right now, I'd say maybe a series win. Maybe you could win a postseason series with these two guys. I'd be confident in the idea of that happening. You know, but I think there are a lot of questions, right? Like defensively, what is this team? We have these ebbs and flows. We talked to Coach Brown about it yesterday. I'm a little bit more concerned about these bad quarters than maybe the coach is, which is probably
or that he's letting on.
Or that he's letting on. The bench, as we've said, up and down, very inconsistent. And let's be honest here, their shooting has been all over the place the last few weeks. So right now, if you ask me, I'd say, yeah, I feel pretty good about their ability to win a series in the postseason. I don't know if I'd go too far beyond that. Perfect world, maybe you get to a conference finals. But here's the thing. We always focus on the 1-2. Look at the supporting cast. And if this supporting cast improves, right? If you add just one more person in the offseason, a wing or a legit big behind Domas, and then you have to imagine that Keegan is going to improve. He's going to develop. He's going to continue to get better because he's only a rookie. If you have the Keegan development and you add one or more two pieces, I think that's when you talk about this team being a legit conference finals kind of team, right? That they can get to the Western Conference Finals with just one or two additions in Keegan's improvement.
See, I would say they can get to the conference finals now. I think they're already at that level, Nick. That's how much I believe in those two guys. That's how much I believe in the supporting cast. The bench, yeah, but I haven't lost faith in that trio of Murray, Barnes, and Herter. They've cooled off a little bit here of late, and all their shooting has cooled off a little bit of late. But I just think you talked about the ebbs and flows of defense. I think that's one of the ebbs and flows of an offense, especially when you count on the 3-point shot as much as they have. Cold streaks are going to happen. I said that I think this team could make it to the Western Conference Finals before all these trades. The road there is more difficult now, for sure. If Kevin Durant can stay healthy, if this Luka and Kyrie thing doesn't hit any potholes between now and the playoffs, and you never know where there's a pothole when Kyrie Irving is on your team. So
it's right around the corner at any moment.
It's a tougher road, but I wouldn't count them out in any series other than maybe Memphis and Denver.
Yeah, and that's part of the equation, right? Like it's not just you ranking or evaluating this team and this 1-2 punch in a vacuum and looking at this team individually. It's also who they have to go against and how deep the Western Conference is and how close the Western Conference is. And we talked about this on trade deadline day last week. how deep the Pacific Division is. I mean, the Pacific is just absolutely insane when it comes to talent. So I would feel pretty confident about, Fox and Domas being able to get you through at least one round. Maybe if everything goes perfect, dependent on matchup, maybe conference finals. But if you add a piece or two and Keegan improves like we anticipate he will, I think you're talking about a team that could be in the conversation, no doubt, as a conference finalist. Your thoughts? 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. You can always check us out on YouTube, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Your thoughts on Fox and Domas as the 1-2 punch? What is their ceiling as that 1-2? And what is the team's ceiling with these guys as their 1-2? We'll get to your reaction. Also coming up, Coach Brown joined us yesterday. Find out what he had to say in 90 seconds.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
The Sacramento Kings have not just one,
but two players.
in the afternoon.
They always keep you on edge.
Cattles
and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
Kings ceiling with Fox and Domas as the 1-2 punch. Your thoughts on that? 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. We have plenty of reaction already to this question at the YouTube channel, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up as we go 6A to 6P here. 12 hours of live and local on Sactown Sports. More thumbs up means more eyeballs to the channel. We'll get to Coach Brown, who we spoke with yesterday, Ramie, some of the things that stood out to us during that conversation. But first, the YouTube reaction. Sean Embry-Stein, the ceiling is a championship.
Whoa. Mic check.
Mic check.
Whoa. This year? Is he saying this year or their big picture ceiling?
I'm laughing because I get to hear you say whoa twice.
Yeah.
Saying the championship. Yeah, I mean, that's all he said was ceiling is a championship.
I mean, I do think that's their ceiling. I think you're right that they need the right supporting cast around them. You need the development, the next level to come out of a Keegan Murray, and you got to plug some other holes and especially on that bench. But yeah, I mean that's what they're building towards, right? And this is unless something falls in your like a Kevin Durant type of trade falls in your lap. This is their big two. Like maybe they add a three.
Yeah.
But this is their big two.
Or you hope Keegan becomes that.
Or
three,
you hope
right?
Keegan becomes that. But this is as far as the core and the front men of this thing, this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, because if you're going to trade one of Fox and Domas to bring somebody back, you're obviously eliminating one of the two.
So obviously the Kings are hoping that the ceiling for this big two, or hopefully what eventually becomes a big three, is championship. Because otherwise, what are you building towards?
Tyler Boyce, if Keegan can become a really solid number three, I could see them contend for the West in the next few years. I agree with Tyler.
Yeah. Agreed.
You know, if you bring a piece or two during the offseason via free agency or trade, and then you have Keegan develop into that solid 3 guy, as I said, I think you could contend for the Western Conference Finals. Scooter 916, sophomore Keegan is going to be fire. Hopefully, I think he's going to get better. I hope he gets better. TCG, next year, look out. I think Monty tweaks this roster and produces a contender. So I think a lot of us are on the same page. That's the YouTube channel. Let's go out to the phones. We've got Ramie who wants to talk some Kings. Hey, Ramie.
Carl and Ramie, how you fellas doing today?
Good. How are you?
All right, pretty good. There's a couple things. I do love the Sabonis and Fox, but I think quietly we do have our number 3, Keegan Murray. But you know what? I was thinking about a couple of buyouts. I wouldn't mind going after John Wall because off night, man, he has not been playing well. Even the 2 games he started when Fox was out, the birth of his child. There's a couple of trades that I'll probably look at during the offseason. I'd love to go after I really like John Collins from Atlanta. Maybe we can flip that first rounded protected back to unprotected and throw something else in there, or go after maybe like a Pascal Siakam from Toronto. I just think when we have that, it have John Collins or Pascal Siakam play the 4, and you just leave Keegan at the 3. Thank you, fellas.
All right, Rameez, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I like both those moves. I like all 3. He named 3 moves more immediately because those other 2 guys would have to be off-season trades when you talk about Collins and Siakam. But yeah, I would like to see them be in on John Wall if he's on the buyout market. I think that is a good fit and gives you a little bit of punch and scoring off the bench.
It hurt me to say it the other day, but I'm going to stand by it. I've lost hope for Davion this year. Not for the rest of his career. That would be way over dramatic. But for this season, until I see it consistently, on the offensive end, I've lost hope. He doesn't look like he's confident. He doesn't look like he feels like he fits. With Malik Monk being the playmaker coming off the bench, I think that's taken the basketball out of the hands of Davion where he's most comfortable. I've got to the point where I'm going to stop expecting him to turn this thing around.
I agree
until he does
you.
it. I'll be thrilled if he does, but I see no evidence of him finding himself offensively right now.
I agree with you, but I think that doesn't mean there isn't necessarily a place or a role for him on this team. Just the importance of that role needs to be knocked down a peg to where he's just a defensive specialist. If you got a point guard or a guard on the other side who needs to be stopped, Davion Mitchell is the guy who you call off the bench for that assignment.
We'll have your chance to win Kings tickets, Kings Blazers tickets in less than a half hour, so you want to stay tuned for that. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. We were joined by Coach Brown yesterday in the 5 o'clock hour. You can listen to that entire interview on the podcast page, sacktownsports.com. First, here was the coach talking about Keegan Murray.
A lot of it. That probably right there is 70 to 75% of it because he is skilled. I'm telling you, he is a skilled young man. And right now, he just gives our opponent a little too much respect at times. And he also gives his teammates a little too much respect at times. Sometimes he's got to be selfish and he's got to say, you know what? No, I'm taking over, or no, I'm going to go do this. But when he does it, he can't shy away from contact. He can't shy away from anything. He's got to go up, through, and over somebody with some sort of force to let not only that opponent know that I'm here, but also to let his teammates know that's the reason why I decided to take this shot, because I'm going through my man to finish this play, But you can see it when he brings the ball in transition. Sometimes he's a little gun shy when he could bring that thing and initiate our offense just like the next person on our team. And I think the experiences this year playing with Foxy, playing with Domas, playing with HB will get him more comfortable sooner than later as time goes on.
Be assertive, be aggressive, and frankly, be selfish sometimes.
Yeah, and my question to Coach Brown that prompted that answer was, how much of unlocking Keegan Murray is Keegan Murray just understanding what he's capable of?
Right.
Like just like the superhero understanding his powers, just exactly what he can do with them. You know what I mean? And I do think that's a lot of it. And I've heard Coach Brown hint at that a few times throughout the season, and that's why I asked that question. And I agree with him, man. When you see Keegan Murray just take it to the hoop and try to take a body, even if it doesn't go in, I think that's a step in the right direction for him and his development.
I think it's more a question of when, not if. we saw Keegan have that killer instinct in college. When he was at Iowa in big games, Big Ten tournament, that dude showed out. So he has proven that once he's comfortable with his surroundings, once he understands, like, okay, I can try to do more here, he's capable of doing so. So I think it's a matter of when, not if. I asked, of course, one of the things I've talked about a lot, Ramie, is Domas and how much this team has leaned on Domas this year. I asked Coach Brown that question about Domas and his minutes.
You always want to try to play your guys, quote unquote, less minutes than what they're playing. I think Domas is, if I had to guess, I hadn't looked in a while, but he's averaging right around 35 maybe, which at his age isn't bad. Obviously, with the way he plays and how he's getting hit and banged around in that paint area makes it tougher. But again, I said this about Foxy's performance against Dallas. Yeah, he's an all-star for a reason, and he gets paid the money he gets paid for a reason. And he has to figure out how he can continue doing what he's doing for us at a high level whenever we need him or whenever we call his number. And those guys have done it. Domas has continued to do it. He'll figure it out. And when there's an opportunity to get him some rest, we'll definitely get him rest as the season goes along.
34.6 minutes per game, so I'm pretty confident Coach Brown knew that the number was around 35, even though I haven't looked at it in a while.
I think it's 35-ish.
Is it like 34.7? Am I close? But, as I've mentioned, and he touched on this a little bit, not all minutes are the same. And so Domas is ranked 49th in the league in minutes per game, but how much they ask of him in the physicality. You asked Coach about how many times he gets hit in the face and how physical he plays. I think Domas's minutes are much tougher than some other dudes' minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's playing hard minutes. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you see a rock star, Nick, and they look like 15 years older than what they are, and it's because they lived a hard life. Their 35 years on this planet is not the same as somebody else's 35 years on the planet. And Giannis's 35 minutes are not the same as some other guy's 35 minutes. Guys who, like Kevin Huerter's 35 minutes are not the same as a Domas 35.
Right.
Hanging out around the 3-point line and waiting for somebody to throw you the ball and shoot it or dribble around for a little bit. It's the wear in the time he's spending on the court is a lot more than what some other guys are.
We'll continue with some Kings talk. Also, Derek Carr done in Vegas. Where do the Raiders turn? We'll discuss that as well coming up next.
The only place you'll find Kevin Huerter is Sactown Sports.
Huerter's open, steps into three. He's got the triple.
Hey, Sacramento, it's Kevin Huerter, and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sactown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Folsom Lake Kia.
I'm Tamara Berg in the KCRA 3 Weather Center. It's Valentine's Day for this Tuesday. Looking at a cool and kind of blustery feel to the day. Temperatures much cooler this afternoon with north winds about 10 to 20 miles an hour. We'll see sun and clouds in mid-50s. Get the latest forecast on the KCRA 3 News and the KCRA 3 app.
Treat yourself to a new car in the new year. Shop Folsom Lake Kia for your favorite Kia model. Low interest rates, low payments, even zero down deals with approved credit. Over 20 years right here in Sacramento. That's Folsom Lake Kia.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
The secret to getting endless hot water at home. Go tankless with Navien. Navien tankless water heaters provide endless hot water for spa-like comfort. How? They heat water on demand, right when you need it, instead of wasting energy by storing it in a tank, which means you get instant hot water that never, ever runs out. Right now, save hundreds on Navien tankless water heaters with local rebates. It's easy. Visit tanklessmadesimple.com. That's tanklessmadesimple.com.
Maida Chevy has exclusive all-in-stock pricing on a huge selection of new 2022 and 23 half-ton Silverados in stock.
$6.4 million in his contract became guaranteed today at 1 p.m. Carr is now a free agent and is expected to continue drawing interest from teams hungry for a QB1 solution. Out of Arizona and the NFC West, the Cards are hiring Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon as their new head coach. The move comes 2 days after the Eagles lost Super Bowl 57 to the Chiefs 38-35, and Gannon's defense gave up 24 second-half points, letting the 10-point halftime advantage slip away. The Sacramento Kings have a date with the Suns tonight in Phoenix, the last dance before All-Star Weekend. The newly acquired Kevin Durant of the Suns participated in his first practice session on Monday, but team officials ruled him out for the evening soiree with the Kings. Cattles and Ramie are going to take you right up until game night, starting at 4:30. I'm Simone. Those are your headlines. Now back to Cattles and Ramie.
And Ramie.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
I remind you all guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Clobbering time. So, Andy Reid, I thought you'd get a kick out of this.
What do you do now? He's one of my favorite people in football.
He was asked today about how he celebrated the Super Bowl win. Once he got back to Kansas City, he said, quote,
Can I guess it had something to do with food?
It did have something to do with food. Yeah, I went to Pizza 51. I got a mushroom and sausage pizza. How about that? And a salad just to make my chubbiness feel good.
Waddle over here.
Can I have a pizza with a side salad?
I do that too. Do
you?
Yeah. Where I'm like, I'm gonna have a salad. That makes this meal healthy.
It doesn't. I hate to break it to you, it doesn't.
Sure it does. It's
No.
part of a balanced whatever.
Not how it works.
You know?
It doesn't cancel out what you had.
Sure it does.
No.
Yeah, greens and grains bring down your cholesterol.
It's
So
like people-
when I have a steak tonight and a lobster tail and some mashed potatoes.
Can I just talk about your food consumption for a minute? I'm a little worried. I was there on Sunday for the Super Bowl, and you consumed a lot.
Yeah, I did.
I thought you might just keel over.
That's not a normal day. It was the Super Bowl. It's Thanksgiving part 2. It's the Super Bowl.
Bring it.
Oh, I brought it.
Consider it brought in. Yeah.
You were shocked by the number of not alcoholic drinks that I had, but the different beverages.
I was shocked about that too for a different reason.
That I drank through. That I only had one. I had a Bloody Mary. It was a huge Bloody Mary though. But then I had coffee.
Just not used to that at a Super Bowl party.
Had a few Cokes.
So, I had more beverages and less food. That seems to fit. That seems to fit our personalities pretty well.
I don't know why you're surprised by this.
Here's my guess.
Yes.
Conservative guess.
Yes.
5 Philly sliders.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like 5's a good number.
Uh-huh.
For you.
I think it was 4, but carry on. Close
Okay.
enough.
About a quarter of the buffalo chicken dip that you had in that little pie thing.
Yeah, that was probably me.
3 or 4, at least 3 or 4 hot dogs.
Oh,
the
pigs in a blanket. I think 6 of those.
Oh, 6 of those. I'm gonna say at least 2 brookies.
Yes, there was 2 brookies consumed.
I did pretty well. I didn't even write this down. I'm just.
But what you're leaving out is that I was dipping vegetables and all this stuff.
Again,
carrots,
cancels it out.
Carrots and celery.
You can have 10 brookies as long as you have some broccoli.
Tortilla chips. Those are made of corn. That's basically a vegetable right there.
Tortilla chips. You had at least a quarter of a bag of those. And then you had what? 2 Cokes.
Guacamole. I had guacamole. That's a vegetable.
2 Cokes.
Couple coffees.
A
giant Bloody Mary. And a big, vast container of water.
All of this went into this man over like 2 or 3 hours. All the drinks and all the into this man.
It's Super Bowl Sunday, man. Go big or go home. It's the big game.
I love it.
I showed up to play.
I love it.
What you're doing.
By the way, J-Rock 0212, listed on the radio, came to give you guys a thumbs up. You 2 rock. Well, we appreciate you. Again, thumbs up helps us 6A to 6B.
Scooter 916 says, bro, Ramie had a great day. Get off his back.
I'm not on his back.
And he's right. There you go. The water flushed out all the impurities. That's how it works. little vegetables, a little water, a little coffee. Everything's flushed out. You're healthy, as good as new.
TCG said 10,000 calorie day. Very impressive.
He's probably not far off. If we're being honest, he's probably not far off.
Like I can't physically eat that much because I'll just feel like I can't like I'm immobile. Like I'm just done to the world.
Well, I was for the rest of that day. Yeah, I didn't go anywhere.
Like I went crazy like that. What was it? It was
Thanksgiving?
It was
Christmas? Holiday?
I mean, Thanksgiving I'll get at it.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe it was Christmas. But I ate a lot and I was physically uncomfortable. I went on my inversion table for my back, and my insides felt like they were stretching.
I did take my dog around the block.
Well, there you go.
So that again, just canceling out all
Between
the bad
the water and the dog walk, you're set.
I'm fine. And the vegetables. Don't forget the vegetables.
So 10,000 calories. What for the walk in the water? What do we subtract? About 7,000 of those?
Yeah,
Is that how
easy.
it works?
Easy.
3,000 calories.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
It's a balanced day.
Hit
It's
your
a
goal.
well-balanced day.
Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. By the way, Derek Carr was released today. This isn't really news. Vic Tafer from The Athletic wrote about this decision, though. And there was a nugget in here that jumped out at you and I, Ramie. And Tafer wrote, there was some talk of the Raiders and Carr working together to find a trade partner because it was mutually beneficial, but they did not trust each other enough to do that. Carr wanted to talk to all teams and see who would be willing to rework his contract before the deadline, but the Raiders thought he would just be setting up his future free agent deal.
So they thought he was just going to go and under the table negotiate his free agent deal with these teams.
Can I tell you how much I hate that from the Raiders? What does it matter? At the end of the day, you ended up cutting him today, and he's going to go on his free agent tour anyway.
Yeah, you just delayed it 2 weeks.
You have nothing to lose by saying, you know what, Derek, go talk to every team in the league so you can try to get an asset back from that team. That's really it. That's your choice is to let him talk to all these teams and get something for him, or don't let him talk to anybody, or, limit the number of teams he can talk to and maybe try to work out a deal. But at that point, once you said you're not going to be able to go talk to anybody, you are dead to him. Yeah. And that's why he was like, you know what? Yeah, I know the Saints want to give you a third-round pick and all that good stuff. I couldn't care less. I'm going to get cut. I'll go to New Orleans if I want to go to New Orleans on my own.
It was their last chance to show some good faith or some goodwill in the relationship while they were, signing the divorce papers, maybe a little concession. And even if that good faith or goodwill is one-sided and Derek Carr doesn't have pure intentions when he goes and talks to these teams that he's going to negotiate a trade and not just a free agency contract, you lost nothing.
Right.
Instead, they went ahead and took it upon themselves to be the ones who poisoned the waters.
Yep.
On his way out the door and have no chance of getting something for him in a trade.
We talked about this yesterday. I don't think you do. I don't blame Carr one bit.
No.
Hey, man, that's it. They told you they didn't believe in you. They benched you at the end of the season. You have the contract that you agreed to. You had the right to be, hey, my money's going to get guaranteed by the 15th. If you don't cut me by then or trade me by then, you had the leverage. You utilized your leverage. Fine by me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any issue with Derek Carr doing what he did.
No.
I have an issue with the Raiders, not trying to play ball with them.
Cut
even
off
if
their nose to spite their face.
Even if it didn't work, just say, yeah, you know what? Go talk to everybody.
Right.
Because you did not have to say yes to a trade anyway. That's the whole idea of they were thinking that he would lay the foundation. Who cares? He's going to do that anyway. We're a month away from free agency. He's going to hit free agency before any other quarterback does. He's going to do exactly what you thought he was going to do, just a week later.
Right.
So I
With
just don't
no
understand.
chance of you getting anything for him.
With you getting nothing now.
You eliminated 28 of the 29 teams that could have talked to Derek Carr. I know not that many are necessarily looking for a quarterback, but plenty of teams are looking for a quarterback, and you just narrowed the field yourself.
Yep.
By being petty with this dude on his way out the door.
I don't understand it. By the way, we should say this to all the Kings fans out there. Jason Anderson had this a while back, right before the show. Kings activating Nemius Queta for tonight's game against the Suns. So Queta might get some minutes tonight. We'll see. We'll see if he plays and how he does if he does play. But he's been brought up, and he is in Phoenix. We'll get to your thoughts as we move along here. Derek Carr, Kings. Also, we have some Kings tickets to give away in less than 7 minutes or so. So you want to stay tuned for that. We'll give you your chance to win those tickets. Also want to tell you that it's 2:39 on this Tuesday. That time check is brought to you by Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Did we wage war on aliens over the weekend?
What?
Yeah, the latest on that coming up.
Sactown Sports goes 100% live and local.
From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Tune in to Carmichael, Dave, and Jason One brings Makloff magic, while the other,
We're still trying to figure that out.
Paddles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
All right now on the contest line, we have your chance to win Kings Blazers tickets.
Ooh.
Thursday, February 23rd. So the return from the All-Star break, Thursday, February 23rd, a week from this Thursday. You'll be able to check out Dame Dalla in person as the Kings face the Blazers. You can secure your seats at kings.com/tickets. More information, visit sacktownsports.com. And caller number 4 is what we'll do. 1-800-920-1140. 1-800-920-1140. Caller number 4 to the contest line wins a pair of tickets to check out the Kings hosting the Blazers at Golden One on February 23rd. 1-800-920-1140. Congratulations to caller number 4. And yes, the number has not changed.
Okay. And you did not pick that number.
I have no say in the number.
Nick does not have the power to pick a number.
I am Ron Burgundy in this case. They give me the number. I'll tell you what it says with 2 stars next to it to make sure that I pay attention.
2 stars?
Yes. Each day, afternoon host.
That's you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why include my name? It's like we don't know who the afternoon host is. Afternoon host can request caller 4 to win a pair of tickets to check out the Kings hosting the Trailblazers. So there you go.
Wow. Look at that.
Caller 4.
Like if it,
I'm afraid.
What about you and Kelly's wedding? If he was like, do you husband to be?
Yeah.
Take this woman.
Do you husband to be? Take this wife to be. Like, you know my name, bro. Know my name. I'm paying you. You know my name. It is a little weird, afternoon host. Tomorrow, I might change the number. What do you think will happen if I change the caller number?
I don't know,
do you think
man.
I'll be in trouble?
I don't know.
The only place
The only place I'll be is not here at Sactown
We're gonna
Sports,
go straight
possibly,
to
if
a
I change the
commercial,
number
and
caller.
Nick won't be here when we get back. That's just gonna happen because you didn't say the right number.
What happened was Verla was trying to save me. He's like, if I can dump that and fire a commercial, upper management might not even hear Nick messing around with the giveaway
Don't
number.
mess with the giveaway number, man. Don't you dare mess with the giveaway number.
By the way,
it will be 4.
We'll talk
whether
about
you like it or not.
We'll talk about possibly waging war with aliens in a minute. But
Yeah.
Chris sent a very funny text during the break. So we were talking about how much food you consumed at the Super Bowl get-together that you had at your house on Sunday.
Yes.
And you consumed a lot.
A lot.
And so Verlad sent us the gif of
Homer shoveling food
in his mouth.
And Marge looking
just like
embarrassed.
covering her eyes, like
Grossed
can't believe. And I was 100% Marge, and Ramie was 100% Homer.
Have you never seen anybody eat like that at a Super Bowl
of
party?
course.
It's
course.
the Super Bowl. That's not every day.
It's been a couple of years.
I'm pretty close to like around 2,000 calories a day with my normal day-to-day diet. You know,
I won't even tell you what I do.
pretty balanced. You've told me what you do.
I'm
not
weird,
not
man.
in not in too much detail, but you gave me a pretty good idea of what you do.
I'm very weird.
Yeah, you are. You brought your own cheese and crackers to my Super Bowl party.
Because you have no fear of grease and spice. I live in fear of grease and spice. If I ate what you cooked, I might have died
What did
before the
you
end of the
eat
game.
exactly? Because I don't remember seeing you eat anything. What did you eat exactly at my Super Bowl party?
Pigs in a blanket. Had a few of those.
Okay.
Kelly made some Mexican dip. And
Wait, that was Mexican dip?
see, I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
What?
Why did I say it?
What?
That it was Mexican dip.
Why wouldn't you say
Because
that?
Chris is on the other side of the glass.
Oh.
And I feel like I'm not going to
He's
share.
gonna tell you that
I'm not going to share the contents of the Mexican
He's
dip.
going to tell you that dip very much was not Mexican. Is that
Chris
what you're
will
referring
walk in and attack me if I share what was in that dip.
Please share what was in that
No,
dip.
I'm not going
Please
to.
tell me.
Nope.
Because honestly, I just thought it was a container with shredded cheese on it. Shredded cheese in it. Because that's all
I mean, now
could-
you're kind of taking a shot at Kelly.
No,
for
no,
the-
no, no,
She
no.
made the dip.
No,
I mean,
no, because
Was it like a 5-layer dip?
because I didn't
No.
dip into it. So all I could see was the cheese on top. And I was like, because you have your weird food thing. I was like, why didn't Nick just bring shredded cheese to the Super Bowl? What's he
yes,
doing?
I brought shredded cheese. Just handful of shredded cheese is
I was
what
like,
I ate.
what is he doing with that? I didn't know. I literally thought it because the top layer obviously was shredded cheese. So that's all I saw. I didn't know. I would have gotten in on that if I knew it was a
I'm glad
five-layer
you didn't,
Mexican
because
dip.
then you would have been like, "Oh, Chris, this is Mexican dip." You guys would have gone on for 5
Come
minutes.
on, what was in it? Some
Nope.
baked beans,
It will remain a
sour
secret.
cream,
It will remain a secret.
guac, a little salsa. I know there was shredded cheese.
So I had some of the dip.
Uh-huh.
I had some pigs in a blanket.
Uh-huh. That's
some,
it,
some
right?
cheese and crackers.
Cheese and crackers.
And that was the gist. Yeah.
I had a better day than you.
Some Mexicalis. Well, I mean, for you did. I had a fine day. I know that you and I had a pretty good day.
It was a good day.
On Sunday.
It was a solid day.
I don't know how the aliens are feeling about their weekend.
What aliens?
Did you see what's going on here?
No.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we are in war with aliens.
How do you? First of all, what are you talking about?
This is happening. All right, so this is from the Daily Beast. When the Chinese spy balloon was shot down on February 4th by the U.S. Air Force, you might have thought that was the end of it. Just another odd geopolitical quirk that popped up. Little did anyone know it was actually just the beginning of what would become a brand new trend of mysterious flying objects in our skies. So, over the weekend, Ramie, three unidentified objects were discovered and shot down in as many days over Alaska, the Yukon Territory in Canada, and Lake Huron off the coast of Michigan. On February 10th, an unidentified object was shot over Alaska. White House noted that it was roughly the size of a small car, and the Pentagon said that it broke into pieces after being shot, which suggests it was likely not a balloon.
Balloons don't break into pieces.
That's right.
Generally speaking.
Then on February 11th, Canadian President Justin Trudeau announced that another UFO was shot down over the Yukon Territory. This object was a cylinder. Like the others, it's still a mystery as to what it was exactly. And then finally, on Super Bowl Sunday, as Ramie was sucking down Philly sliders, the UFO was shot over Lake Huron near Michigan. The object flew over Montana on Saturday before reappearing on Sunday, flying at roughly 20,000 feet. Intriguingly, the Pentagon said that this object was octagon-shaped and had strings hanging off of it. Not just here. China reported on February 12th that they spotted an object flying over the northern coastal town of Rizal and are prepared to shoot it down. South America also experienced its own UFO issue. Uruguay announced on February 11th that it had seen, quote, flashing lights in the sky, unquote, and is planning to potentially scramble jets to deal with it. Ramie, we're in war with aliens. There's no other explanation for this.
There's none.
Nothing.
There's no other explanation.
The only explanation
for this
is that
whatsoever.
ET is attacking us.
I don't know what all these things are, but my girlfriend was listening to a podcast this morning and I overheard the podcast. So I'm just going to tell you what I gathered. They had an aviation expert on. It was some New York Times podcast, the failing New York Times. You know them. The Daily. Thank you. Chris just said the Daily. And they had an aviation expert on who said that after the Chinese balloon that we shot down, well, not we, I had nothing.
You weren't out there?
I had nothing to do with that.
Everybody, hold on. We're not going to shoot this down yet. What are we waiting for? Ramie Makloff. Who? No, he knows what he's doing. Wait.
So after the Air Force shot down that balloon, basically the FAA just dialed up the sensitivity on our radars just in case there were any other balloons or spy
And now we're
vehicles.
finding there's like 75,000 spy balloons.
So now we're picking up things So now they're picking up things that they wouldn't have picked up before.
Ramie's picking up things.
And so there's more military activity to shoot down these things that aren't cleared to fly in this airspace.
You can believe that incredibly plausible theory all you like. These experts you speak of.
Right, yeah, I know.
I'm telling you.
I know that's what the failing New York Times and the mainstream media would want you to think.
We're fighting aliens.
Okay. If that's what you say, Nick, I believe you.
I'm glad you believe me.
I'm with you, man.
It's the only explanation.
But again, I've said this before.
Sensitivities.
If aliens are coming down to Earth, I don't really have a big problem with that.
We don't really know what they're about.
Right.
People think like they're super smart. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're like cavemen.
For all we know, they're coming with like a solution to world hunger.
Intelligence of cavemen.
A cure to cancer, some sound economic policies. I don't know. I don't know what they're coming here with. And for us to jump to these conclusions.
Try to change hip hop. Because we need it.
Maybe they can undo that last Drake album that you hated so much.
Oh God!
Maybe
Please
they can fix it.
If they could erase that disaster.
Maybe they could put some beeps and some boops over it and fix it for you. I don't know.
Beeps, beeps, boops, boops. Beep, 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 boop, boop, boop. Man. Well, look.
I welcome the aliens.
All I'm going to tell you
I don't think humans have done that great a job, so I welcome the aliens.
We had a fun ride, my friend. We had about 8 months of radio together. I hope you enjoyed it.
I was just getting started.
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah, really.
That's a bummer.
I know.
Sorry. ET's coming after us. We're all done.
Also,
experts. My girlfriend was listening to a
podcast
with an expert.
I don't listen to educational things,
that's
but
like
she was.
That's like third-hand information.
Right.
Okay? I'm telling you, firsthand, this is aliens.
And I told you, if you think it's aliens, I'm going to take your word for it, not the aviation expert.
That's right.
Ooh, we have YouTube saying, is it because of the beam? They've been heralded here.
Oh, what if the beam?
It's all Sacramento's fault. They come down.
Yeah, what if
we were not going to bother you until we
it's
saw the
not
beam?
a part of the script for us to be doing this well right now.
What if aliens blow up the planet the day before the playoffs because of the beam?
All the aliens, they were hanging out, right? They were sitting by like a campfire or whatever they do. I don't know what they do. And they're all having like s'mores and they're talking about how great of a summer it's been.
They were just chilling.
Because it's summer when it's like winter here. I'm just
Sure,
guessing.
Of course. Yeah.
And so they're like, we've been waiting for hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years for humans just to send us an invite.
Right.
And then on one fateful night, they saw a purple beam and they were like, that's it. That's what we've been waiting for. And they all jumped in their octagon UFOs.
And here they come.
So
thought it was hard to get a ticket before.
So listen. There's anybody to blame about war with the aliens, it's Vivek Ranadive.
Exactly.
That's what we've come up with.
That'd be pretty ironic if the beam drew them here, and then they blew up the planet the day before the playoffs started.
Do you think 50 Cent's really 50 Cent?
Oh.
Skin suit?
He's been a lot of places lately.
He's got that little
He's down in
tiny
Houston.
dude
He's
from Men in Black, just running things in there.
I mean, they say he's got like a new liquor thing, but
I don't trust it. Not even for a second.
I didn't see him for like 5 years. Now he's all over the place.
Now we can't get enough 50 Cent.
All right, up next, I'll tell you one of my biggest concerns for the Kings moving forward, and it's not aliens.
The only place you'll find De'Aaron Fox is Sactown Sports.
Spins away from the defender, in the paint, soft floater. That's a great play by De'Aaron Fox.
Hey, Sacramento, it's De'Aaron Fox, and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sactown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
For your everyday vehicle. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP oil filter for only $26.99. Do the complete job for the right price. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
Need new tires? The experts at Tire Rack have been crushing it for over 40 years. Go to TireRack.com/Colin. Tell them what you drive. Try their easy-to-use tire decision guide. They'll show you the right tires for how, what, and where you drive. They've got the full line of hand-cooked tires, test results, tire ratings, and consumer reviews. Also, fast free shipping, free road hazard protection. That's TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Bonneville International radio station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older that are residents of California and who reside in one of the 6 counties that make up the Sacramento metro area, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win, unless the station otherwise specifies in its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 30 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. For a copy of the general contest rules, visit khtk.com.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health Sacramento will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED. Maintaining an appropriate T level can change your whole life. Most men start to see changes in their hormone levels in their 30s. Experience and results matter. So what are you waiting for? Get your T levels checked today by local, experienced, and trusted men's health experts. They've helped thousands of men since 2011. They're so
With your Sactown Sports headlines, I'm Simone Rickford. Derek Carr's tenure with the Silver and Black comes to an end after 9 years. Sources confirmed that the Raiders officially released him before the $40.4 million in his contract became guaranteed today at 1 p.m. Carr is now a free agent and is expected to continue drawing interest from teams hungry for a QB1 solution. Out of Arizona and the NFC West, the Cards are hiring Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon as their new head coach. The move comes 2 days after the Eagles lost Super Bowl 57 to the Chiefs 38-35, and Gannon's defense gave up 24 second-half points, letting the 10-point halftime advantage slip away. The Sacramento Kings have a date with the Suns tonight in Phoenix, the last dance before All-Star Weekend. The newly acquired Kevin Durant of the Suns participated in his first practice session on Monday, but team officials ruled him out for the evening soiree with the Kings. Cattles and Ramie are going to take you right up until game night, starting at 4:30. I'm Simone. Those are your headlines. Now back to Cattles and Ramie.
Your afternoon home for Kings talk and more.
This is Cattles and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
Ramie, the Kings continue to exceed expectations. The good news, they are 15-12 away from Golden One as they get ready to play the Suns tonight.
It's pretty good.
That is the best in the Western Conference.
That's really good.
Yeah, best road record in the Western Conference. Your Sacramento Kings. They also, if you believe in point differential, they're a plus 2.5, which is the third best differential in the Western Conference. And they're the third seed. Doesn't always work that way, but in this case, it does. They're the third seed. They have the third best point differential, again, at plus 2.5. But there is something else when you look at records and when you expand the standings and all that at ESPN.com that catches my attention and not in a good way. The Kings are 11-18 against teams that are 500 or better on the season. So against winning teams, good teams, the Kings are 11-18. If you're wondering, that is the second worst record amongst the top six in the West. They're only behind the Clippers. Clippers are 9-21 against teams that are 500 or better. Ramie, the fact that the Kings are 11-18, 7 games under 500 against good teams, does that concern you?
Slightly. And honestly, it surprises me, Nick, because before you read that number off to me, I thought the Kings' problem more times than not was kind of playing down to competition, losing games that they shouldn't lose. You know what I mean? That against subpar opponents. I just from memory and I don't know, I guess the vibe, the way I've felt this season has gone. I've thought that they've actually held up pretty well against good competition, against stiff competition, but obviously that's not the case, man. And that's obvious. That's who they're going to be facing come the postseason.
Right.
We were talking in the first hour about the ceiling for this team, specifically for Domas and Fox, but obviously they're not going anywhere by themselves. The ceiling for this team, and I said Western Conference Finals is, I think, is not out of the question. Is not something that's unrealistic at this point. If the road to the conference finals is the right road, but you saying that makes me a little less confident in that statement. Those are the teams you're going to have to beat. They're the ones you're going to face come the postseason is the best of the best.
You know, it depends on, to me, what the goal is in your head, if you're a fan, what the goal is this year. I think some Kings fans are just going to be happy and content with getting into the playoffs if this team gets to the playoffs. I know that for a fact, that many Kings fans will be happy if that's just the end game, right? Got to the playoffs. Yeah, we lost in the first round, but we got there. That's step one. Baby steps, right? If that's your mindset, that you're not going to be very concerned about anything. But if your mindset is to win playoff games, which is my mindset, you get there, you might as well win a few games when you're there, right? If you're looking for playoff wins, then yes, this does matter. And yes, it should bring at least some concern. I'm not saying panic. I'm not saying freak out. But as you just said, Ramie, good teams make the playoffs. If you want to win a playoff series, if you want to win playoff games, you've got to beat a good team. And so you're 11-18 against 500 and above. That's not going to give you much confidence going into a playoff series, even if we're talking you're the 3 seed against a 6 seed, because that 6 seed should be above 500.
And my knee-jerk reaction when you started reading off that stat, because you told me you had a stat about the Kings and their record against winning teams before the show started. You didn't tell me exactly what it was. My first knee-jerk reaction is, well, that's got to be what's happening to everybody, right? Everybody loses to good teams. That's why they're good teams. More times than not, they win the games that they play. But as you pointed out, they're not even on par with other teams in the Western Conference in terms of what they do against teams that are above 500. They're among the worst.
So I played this game, right, as I got ready for this segment, and I looked back at last year because that's how my brain works. Okay, so that's what the Kings are. What about the other teams, right? What
does history tell us?
I told you that the Kings are the second worst in the Western Conference amongst the top 6 when it comes to record against teams that are 500 or better. So last year, Ramie, out of the top 12, so out of the top 6 teams in the West, top 6 teams in the East, out of those 12 teams, there were only 2 teams that had losing records against good teams, Denver and Miami. When you look at it, Miami last year ended as the number 1 seed in the East. But they were, when you look at what they had done, no, I'm wrong. Sorry, Chicago. It wasn't Miami. Chicago was the only team in the top 6, actually 2. Milwaukee, surprisingly enough, Milwaukee and Chicago, 2 teams that were in the top 6 last year in the Eastern Conference that had below 500 records against teams that were 500 and above. Chicago was 22-27. Milwaukee was 24-25. Milwaukee, of course, had, a number of injuries they were dealing with. And Chicago was kind of seen, this. These are your 2 teams, right? You grew up a Chicago Bulls fan. You paid a lot of attention to Milwaukee.
I was just going to say, Nick. Now, Milwaukee had extenuating circumstances. Also, winning a championship and having a 2-time MVP on your roster earns you a little bit of credibility, even when you look at a number like that. As you pointed out, I'm from Chicago. I got a lot of Bulls fans in my life. I grew up one myself. And I would tell anyone who would listen last year that Bulls team, because they're, they've been like Kings fans, not quite as hungry or thirsty as Kings fans, but like Kings fans, they've been waiting for something good. And so they were ready to jump on. And I would tell any Bulls fan who would listen that was not what it looked like early on in that season. Right. And one of the things I pointed to was what we're talking about right now, Nick, is what did they do against good teams, against quality opponents? And I saw what they did, and that was one of the things that made me not believe in that Bulls team or get excited about that Bulls team. And I'm not saying that this Kings team is the same, because I think there are more signs that they're for real than what I saw with that Bulls team last year, but it's not, it certainly doesn't help their argument or their case in us trying to sit here and convince ourselves, convince others, whatever the case might be, that this Kings team is for real.
No, so out of the top 12 teams last year, again, 6 in the East, 6 in the West, 3 of them were below 500 at the end of the year against teams that are 500 and above. The 3 teams were Milwaukee at 24-25, Chicago at 22-27, and the Nuggets were 20-26. That was it. The 9 other teams that qualified for the playoffs without having to deal with the play-in were all above 500 against good teams. And when you look at, seeds 7 through 10, the play-in teams, there wasn't a single team out of those 8 teams that were above 500 against good teams. So if you're looking at last year, if last year is an indication, no doubt this Kings team would be the anomaly, being 11-18 so far against teams that are 500 or above. And those are the teams that you have to get through to make a run. So there should be some concern. I think this year it makes sense to a point that you'd have less concern, because this is the learning process, right? There's a lot of new, and, Foxy's learning how to win. Most of this team is learning how to win, frankly. So maybe you give them a little bit more leeway. But they've also been very healthy, which, Milwaukee wasn't healthy last year. Denver had the injuries. Jamal Murray coming back, right? He had the ACL. So being relatively healthy in 11-18 against 500 and above, they have to play better against good teams.
I also think that this is kind of an extraordinary year in the NBA when you talk about how tightly bunched everybody is, and not just in the standings. I think sometimes standings don't reflect what is actually happening on the court and how far certain teams have separated themselves from other teams. I think this year the standings especially in the West, pretty accurately reflect how good everyone is. And the difference between a playoff team and a sub 500 team, I think that gap has closed, or is not as large as it has been in previous years.
So I have some slight concern about this. Again, big picture, not the huge kind of thing, because I think this team is learning how to beat good teams. So I do give them some leeway, some latitude for that. But if you want this team to go on a run post All-Star break, they have to be much better against teams that are good, 500 or better. And they're going to play a number of teams that are good post All-Star break. So they have to be much better against those teams if you want them to get to where we want them to get to.
It's an opportunity,
yes,
to improve on that record against winning teams.
Want your thoughts. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Open phone lines for you. Are you concerned by the Kings being 11-18 against teams that are 500 or better on the season? Also, you can check us out, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. When you swing by, give us the thumbs up. We'll get to your reaction. Beyond your reaction, Monty had someone eyed at the trading deadline. That's right. We've got some details on Monty McNair hunting for a player near the deadline. Who was it? What happened? Find out in about 90 seconds.
Cattles
and Ramie.
Sactown Sports. Sactown Sports goes 100%.
This is Cattles and Ramie
on Sactown Sports.
It is 3:15 on this Tuesday. Time check brought to you by Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Coming up at 4:30, you will have game night for you. Get you ready for the Kings and Suns.
Yes, sir.
Interesting game tonight.
No KD,
No
right?
No KD, fortunately. The Suns are one of those above 500 teams, right? 31-27 on the year coming into tonight's game. You know, what does this look like? What does this feel like? Can you get the win before you get to the All-Star break? Mentally, this is historically a pretty tough game because a lot of guys are thinking about the vacations that are coming up, where they're staying, what they're doing, logistics, flying out. I'm sure a lot of the Kings tonight, players and staff after this game, will fly out to wherever they're going. They got their luggage. They're ready to go.
You think they're packed already?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not going to waste any time.
Does packing before you have to go to work, does that mean that your head isn't in the game? Or does that mean that you're prepared, you've cleared your head from everything you need to do to get ready for the trip, and now you can focus on what you got to do?
Yeah, I think
because if I'm going on a trip,
I think you're focused. I would hope. I don't think packing makes you kind of, out of the game, so to speak.
If I'm going on a trip, like let's say that I'm not, but let's say, well, I am, but I'm not flying anywhere. But let's say like Friday, I was flying out somewhere. I have the day off. I'd pack before I came into work Thursday,
right?
Just so I could go home, chill, wake up Friday, grab my bag, and I'm out the door.
Scooter 916 talking about the Kings 11-18 record against teams that are 500 or better. In the YouTube chat, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Give us that thumbs up if you can. If they get better defensively, that number will change. But that's been their Achilles heel so far. Their bad defensive stints. And I found it interesting. We talked about the Kings yesterday with Coach Brown, and I asked him about the defense. And I said, look, if the ups and downs defensively, Friday night against Dallas, you give up 45 in the first quarter. Second half of that game, much better, much more competitive defensively. Have you figured out why that is? And Coach's explanation was the guys are still learning. I don't know at what point we should expect them to be done with that learning. I don't know at what point we should say, well, a 45-point first quarter, I mean, to me, it's inexcusable no matter what. And I don't think Coach Brown was excusing a bad quarter like that. But his overall thought was, as we know, Coach Brown, very defensive-minded, and we will get to the player that the Kings were hunting after at the deadline in a couple minutes. But I found it interesting that Coach Brown said, really, it's just kind of learning. It's acquiring the defensive trait, so to speak. And, of course, he's not going to sound the alarms with us. But he sounded like it wasn't too surprising to him that it might take some time defensively to figure this out and show that consistency.
Yeah, I think the consistency is the last thing to come, Nick, when you talk about, because coming into this season, we talked about not just last year, a bad defensive team. This seems to be a deep-rooted problem for the Kings. They've been at or near the bottom of defensive rankings for a long time running. Like that was a culture change, part of the culture change that Mike Brown was bringing with him to Sacramento. And I think that there was a lot of unwiring to do when it comes to the defense of this basketball team and some of the guys that are on this roster, even some of the guys that they brought in. Look, you weren't bringing Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter in for their defense. You know what I mean? Like This wasn't a roster that was built to be dominant defensively. And I do think the last thing to come will be consistency. And that might even take some shuffling of the roster, because you might just not have the pieces to consistently be a better defensive team. If we're talking down the road and beyond 2023, I think for this to consistently be a better defensive team, it's going to take some different faces on that roster.
All right, before we get to the trade deadline details and what Monty was trying to do, let's go to Richard, who wants to talk about the Kings going against these good teams above 500. What's up, Richard?
Hi, everything's going good. Thanks for taking my call. I do appreciate it. I have a valid point that I want to bring up, though. In some of those games that they lost earlier this year to better teams, how many times did the refs look at this is just the Kings and give the benefit of the doubt to the better teams? How many games have they lost because of that? Or how many games did they get, did they lose that they were taken out of contention of those games because of those poor calls?
Well, thanks for the call, Richard. Appreciate you listening to the show. Like, I don't know. We'd have to literally go back but I'm not going to say 11 and 18 against 500 and above is all due to the officiating.
No, but there might be 2, 3, 4.
I mean, we know there's a couple of games, that could stand out that we could talk about and say, well, yeah, if those calls didn't go a certain way, then they probably win. So maybe you could be 2 or 3 games better. But the point is, you're still well below 500.
Right.
And when you look at last year, 3 of the top 12 teams that were playoff teams, they were, below 500. Only 3. 9 of the teams were above 500 against good teams. So maybe I'll be willing to give you a couple games, Richard, but I'm not going to sit there and say, well, that's the difference between being better than 500 or 7 games below 500. All right, let's get to the deadline. I said this last week, like, you never know what teams are trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, right? The conversations that are happening.
And you and I both said, like, we assume Monty McNair was working the phone.
Right.
Like, he wasn't asleep at the wheel on trade deadline.
Which is why I was more disappointed in not being able to add than being disappointed with Monty, because I was pretty confident Monty was trying to get stuff done. And, it all comes down to the details. And without the details, I can't sit there and kill him and say, oh, why didn't you go out and get that guy? The Mason Plumlee one still bothers me. But maybe Plumlee, I know Mitch Kupchak said during the press conference for Charlotte, he said, that Plumlee wanted to go to a contender. And so it sounded like those conversations behind closed doors were happening where Plumlee would rather go to LA than Sacramento. Who knows if Sacramento and Monty was even interested in Mason Plumlee? We don't know.
Is LA a contender, though?
Well, I think if you look at them, you hope that Kawhi and Paul George are healthy. And if they are, then yes. It really rides on Kawhi. if you got Kawhi, then yes. If you don't have Kawhi, then no.
I'm picturing you waking up in the middle of the night just like, oh, Plumlee!
No.
Cold sweat.
No. So here was our friend Sam Amick. He was on the Ringers NBA show, and here's some details about what the Kings were doing and what Monty wanted.
Vanderbilt going to the Lakers, it's a second level move. Part of it is I'm based near Sacramento, and I know the Kings were pretty disappointed that they didn't get Vanderbilt. They were in on that. They were trying to, I think, do 2 seconds, like we talk about the second conversation. Vanderbilt for them would have been a guy where they've got major defensive problems and could have done some things for them. And I think he's going to help the Lakers. They go out, they beat the Warriors, granted without Steph, and Lakers without LeBron. But they have a nice show out in that first game. That guy comes to mind. I just think like good player, two-way player.
I hate the Lakers. We talked about Jared Vanderbilt. He was pretty much second on my list behind Plumlee as the guy that I wanted. And he'd be number 1 on my list as far as wings. I just thought that he did so much rebounding activity, really good defender, could knock down some corner threes. I thought he was like the perfect fit for this team, and apparently Monty did too. And don't forget, Ramie, we had that report before the deadline, about a week before the deadline, that said there were 2 second-round picks on the table for Jared Vanderbilt from a Western Conference team. 2 and 2 together, that team is the Kings. So the Kings tried to acquire Jared Vanderbilt. He got dragged into that Lakers 3-team trade. Ipso facto, you lost out on him.
Does that make you feel any better about the inactivity at the trade deadline, knowing that they tried, that they made a good effort to improve this roster?
I feel pretty much the same. Again, disappointed they weren't able to add, but I do trust Monty, and I think Monty tried. I think, as we said last week, he was on the phone and he was trying to make things happen. I do feel better that, this is going to sound like pompous. I'm not trying to make it sound pompous, but that Monty was looking at Vanderbilt, a guy we talked about and a guy that was a perfect fit, that Monty was chasing down that path. And it sounds like he was pretty close in getting him if it wasn't for that 3-team trade.
That'd have been a nice move, man.
Oh, it would have been great.
That'd have been a really nice move.
Bothers me a lot. Perfect fit.
More or less than Plumlee.
I do want to know though, like, did they pivot to other wings, or was Vanderbilt like their guy that they had identified? And if you didn't get Vanderbilt, then you weren't going to go down another road. I don't know. Did they pivot? If they did pivot, how hard did they pivot?
Pure speculation. I gotta imagine other possibilities were explored. Other calls were made.
Yeah, I mean, did they target a big man to put behind Domas? But that should make you feel, I think, a little bit better that Monty was looking at Vandy as an answer here. And I think that would have been a fantastic pickup.
That would have been a nice pickup.
Just another reason to hate the Lakers. Really is.
Did you need one?
No, but I love stacking them up. By the way, all guests come to you from the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. More coming up.
Cattles
and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Folsom Lake Ford has trucks. The F-150s are here.
One brings Makloff magic, while the other,
We're still trying to figure that out.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Couple things here.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about the war against aliens at the end of the 2 o'clock hour and how the beam might have begun all of this. Right?
Might have.
Lighting the beam caused the aliens to...
They might have seen that as a honing signal.
Yes, they thought we were inviting them to Earth.
Right. Which, brother, I do invite them to Earth. I welcome the aliens.
So Homer James, great after 16 years of the Kings being bad, the 1 year we have hope, aliens are attacking. The YouTube channel. Text line, I live near G1C and am preparing for the alien assault on our beam.
That would be the first place they went. They'd want to know the source of the beam.
Directly right at the beam. Greg Hyatt, YouTube, just hold off aliens till April, May-ish so we can see a Golden One Center playoff game. Thanks.
The aliens might be confused, too, because what's the first thing the aliens say every time they land in a movie? Take us to your leader. And they are the Sacramento Kings, so that might cause some confusion.
They bring them to like Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Mike Brown's like, what?
What? I'm not the guy for this.
I don't have time for this.
Go talk to Monty.
This team has to be better defensively. You think I'm worried about an alien?
Go talk to Monty or Vivek.
Yeah.
I got nothing to do with this.
Get out of here, will you? Then Ward asked a question.
So stupid.
Ward asked a question, and it got me thinking.
Yeah.
Deuce and Mo have indirectly put a lot of pressure on us.
Why? How?
Because Ward asks, where's the Ramie stand-up during commercials?
Oh, no, that's not. I can't do that.
Because now Deuce and Mo, they talk to the YouTube peeps during the commercial breaks. And that inherently puts pressure on us to do the same thing. We have had several people say, why don't you guys just talk during breaks? Now, today, no shot with me because I am battling. My throat is killing me.
And I'm phlegmy.
Nice. Nice to meet you, Flemmy.
Bad as a unit right now.
Yeah, I got some sinus stuff going on. I got the throat thing going on. But this Deuce and Mo going live during these commercials on YouTube.
Are Dave and Jason doing that in the morning? I told you.
No.
We can talk about doing it once an hour. Not every break. I'm not going to be on for 4 hours. I'm sorry. And I can't do my stand-up on the Sactown Sports YouTube page.
You're not giving that stuff away for free?
No, it doesn't necessarily. Well, no, I have no problem giving it away for free, but you know, Nick, we talked about.
Oh, you'd get fired.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah.
You'd lose the job.
Precisely that. Yeah.
So, might not want to do that.
Exactly.
By the way, Keegan Murray not at the 3-point contest. So Keegan Murray is not at the 3-point contest this weekend.
I thought he should be. I didn't think he would be, though.
Some thought he might make it. Here is the list of players. Jason Tatum. Kevin Huerter, of course.
Huerter.
Which we talked about already, that Huerter made it. Tyler Hero. Dude, so overrated. Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield. That's a sore spot, I think.
That one stings.
Like you get
a little
the two
bit.
former Kings. You can't have two Kings.
That stings a little bit.
Dame Dalla and Anthony Simons. And also Lauri Markkanen. What's interesting is Keegan is better than Huerter from 3, statistically speaking.
Has he been really?
Yes.
He didn't put together a video, though, campaigning to be in the 3-point contest.
But Keegan, he's part of the Rising Stars. So I think that's part of it, I would think. Maybe
they're like,
right?
Enough for you, kid.
And do you really want your rookie to do the Rising Stars and then the 3-point contest the next night when, you know, we always talk about the rookie wall? Do you want him doing more during All-Star Weekend?
I know, like, I'm like the bummer, the buzzkill, whatever you want to call it. But every time a guy makes the All-Star, we talked about it with De'Aaron Fox when he didn't make it. And I was like, you know what? Newborn baby, lots of sleepless nights, playing a lot of minutes, doing a lot for this team in terms of carrying the load.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 or 5 days off, not the worst thing for a De'Aaron Fox. Domantas Sabonis, he's playing with a broken hand, man. Like, there is the two sides of that coin. Like, great that they're making it, but also there's a lot that goes with this whole All-Star break experience, not just even going and playing the game. You're taken through the ringer in terms of all the interviews and the publicity and the events and everything that goes with it. Like it's not a break for these guys, man. They go there and it's a lot of running around and playing basketball.
Meanwhile, I'll slide some football in here about the Niners. If you've been paying attention to the odds, as soon as the Super Bowl ends 1 year, we start looking at the next year. And Akash Anavaratian from Niners Nation tweeted out that the opening odds to win next year's Super Bowl, according to Caesars Sportsbook, the Niners are number 2. The Chiefs at plus 550, the Niners at plus 600, the Bills at plus 650. Then you have the Eagles at plus 800. Ramie, San Francisco is number 2, has the second best odds to win the Super Bowl next year, according to Caesars. And we're not really sure who's going to be QB1 when the season kicks off.
That's, I want to say, if not unprecedented, extremely rare. That a team that doesn't even know their quarterback situation is still up in the air is top 2 or 3, depending on which sports book you're looking at in terms of their odds to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if that's just crazy for odds makers to make that leap, or if that just tells you how good a roster John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have put together here, and what a good job Kyle Shanahan has done of coaching this team, that the people who literally pick the winners in this league and are very good at it, they've built palaces in Vegas that will tell you how good they are at it. They look at the 49ers and they go, I don't care what's going on at the quarterback, the most important position in North American sports. It doesn't matter what happens there. They're still one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFL.
I think it has to do with the roster. It has to do with the reputation of this team and Kyle Shanahan and the history of what they've done. I mean, when you just look at the results the past handful of years, they've been involved with a lot of it, right? They've been in the NFC Championship game multiple times. They made it to a Super Bowl. So that is definitely part. The other thing that surprised me is, like, how is Buffalo ahead of Cincinnati? And Cincinnati's still not getting respect.
It's that Josh Allen hype, man.
Like, my man Joe Burrow. What is happening?
I'm smoking to Joe Burrow.
That's what happened. See what happens, Patrick Mahomes Sr. smoking to Joe Burrow.
The odds makers are smoking that Joe Burrow, man.
So it's like Buffalo still ahead of them, huh? All right. I don't know. 2 straight years they've made it deeper than Buffalo, but what do I know? Beating them this year.
I really do think it's the Josh Allen hype.
An owner spoils his GM's plan. That and more what they said. What next?
Cattles
and Ramie.
Sactown Sport. Cattles and Ramie.
All right, let's get to They Said What this week. Usually we do this at the end of the 4 o'clock hour on Tuesdays, but since we've got game night coming up at 4:30,
there will be no end of the 4 o'clock.
There will be no end of the. Well, there will be. We just won't.
Just not the Cattles and Ramie show.
Yeah,
the world isn't ending.
Hope not.
Well, the aliens.
Fingers crossed. Let's start with Jim Irsay. We know Jim Irsay loves to talk, and he met with the media today along with Chris Ballard, the Colts GM, as they hired Sacramento's own Shane Steichen.
Oh,
yes.
Sactown native.
Yes.
I did not know that.
From right here in Sacramento.
Dax Shepard was trending today on Twitter. Do you know who Dax Shepard is?
Yeah.
And I was like, why is Dax Shepard trending? He has a very popular podcast. I know that. Did he say something stupid on his podcast? So I clicked on it, and it was just people pointing out that he looks just like the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. That's why he was trending today.
So Irsay's there at this press conference, and he starts rambling about quarterbacks and such.
We're not hiding. No one can shy away from the fact what quarterback means in this league and how we have to look going forward, where Shane and Chris really, dig into this draft and really see where you're at. Do you stay put? Do you trade up? There's many things you can do. They took Jalen in the second round. So, trade back. So, he likes picks.
That'll be a Twitter freaking quote.
He likes picks. Although the Alabama guy doesn't look bad, I tell you. It'll be exciting, and I think that shows that we have talent here. Those games, so we're looking forward to Shane really coming in and utilizing that talent.
First of all, just rambling on, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Just rambling on. But secondly, he's letting cats out the bag, man. He's sitting behind Chris Ballard, his GM, at a poker game and going, You're gonna use that ace? What are you gonna do with that ace? How about the king? He's like giving out secrets, dude.
In the upper quartile of winners, we're in the top quartile of that upper quartile.
Not to say who we like, but Bryce Young's pretty good.
An Alabama kid.
Not to say how we're going to acquire a quarterback, but we got a good pick of the draft this year.
Dude, if I have anybody in front of Indy in the draft right now, I'm licking my chops at what Jim Irsay just said, because now I know you're after a young quarterback.
It's just so bad. Like, Chris Ballard's trying to make jokes of it. He's like, oh, well, there's a Twitter quote. Yeah, he knew.
Yeah.
And, like, the GM, can you imagine what's going through his head as the owner is just yapping about this? He's like, oh, no, Jim, no. No, Jim, no.
Shut up. Why? Stop talking, Jim.
Back to the Super Bowl. So, Kadarius Toney had a touchdown in the second half during Kansas City's comeback. And Andy Reid sat down with Peter King to talk about the game and talk about that play specifically. Here we go.
I'm going
to give you a name for it. Right?
Yeah.
It's called corn dog. So,
it's called what?
Corn dog.
It's not called corn dog.
Oh, yeah.
Is it called corn dog?
There's nothing better than a good corn dog with some mustard and ketchup.
But he doesn't step into the huddle and say corn dog.
Oh, no, he says corn dog.
He does?
It's like, oh, no, he says it.
No.
He says corn dog.
Yes, Peter King. That's precisely what he says.
It's the name of the play, Pete. What else is he going to say?
That's awesome. You hear all these complicated, yeah.
Andy Reid said that a corn dog is great with ketchup on it.
I mean,
you were talking in the last hour about how great Andy Reid is and his food and all that.
I didn't say he's infallible. I didn't say he can never be wrong. He happens to be wrong about that.
If I have to side with Ramie or Reid, I'm siding with Reid.
Oh yeah, how about the National Sausage and Hot Dog Council who declared
it's not even a thing.
It absolutely is a thing. It's
like what, one dude in Wisconsin?
It's 100% a thing, and they declared if you are under the age of 18, you should not be putting ketchup on your hot dog. That's from the authority on hot dogs and sausages.
Authority on hot dogs, not authority on condiments.
Well, the eating and consuming of
look how much I
the
care
hot
about
dog.
this.
I'm just saying.
Look at how much I'm changing over this.
I have the authority on my side. You have Andy Reid on your side.
Last night I put so much ketchup on my food for dinner.
Ugh.
I was going to send you
what
a
did you eat?
None of your business.
What did you eat that you were putting ketchup on?
You ever have that meal, none of your business?
What did you eat that you're dousing in ketchup?
We had what is it? turkey burgers with some zucchini fries on the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not. Like I've said before, fries and burgers. I would have gone with, I would have made some kind
I
of
don't
sauce.
care what you would have
like
gone
an
with.
aioli of some kind.
I'm eating it for me,
to
not
put
for
on
you.
a turkey burger. Ketchup
I couldn't
is just,
care less. You are not my food mentor.
It's just corn syrup.
I eat what I like.
Just corn syrup with a little bit of
Did
tomato
I bother you
mixed
when you
in.
were sucking down Philly sliders on Sunday?
No, but they're delicious. I'm doing it right. There's nothing
Well,
to
a hot
criticize.
dog with ketchup for me is delicious.
Terrible. Awful.
That's what I love.
And you should be. The authorities should come and get you.
Listen, part of having an on-air relationship and partnership, Ramie,
I don't know if the
is
national
to
hot
respect
dog
your co-hosts' opinions, especially when it comes to food and condiments.
I don't know if the Hot Dog and Sausage Council has like authorities that they send out, officers that they send out to deal with matters like this, but they should.
There's this dude. His name's like Tim. He's got glasses that are hanging off the side of his face. He's got a buttoned up shirt where the bottom buttons aren't fully buttoned.
You know why I pulled you over today?
He's got a pair of khakis on that don't fit quite right.
Is that ketchup on your hot dog?
With some New Balance sneakers, the white New Balance sneakers with the khakis. That's what this guy looks like. He's like, I don't like ketchup on hot dogs. We're gonna release a statement like anybody cares.
Lock you up. No, not a statement. I think all you people should be locked up. Yeah, I said you.
Do you want to put me in prison for putting ketchup on a hot dog?
Yeah.
I feel like there's much more serious crimes happening on a day-to-day basis.
That's you.
Listen,
not according to me and the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council.
We could put you in the clink for a lot. Okay? Just remember that. All right, Josh Jacobs is a free agent, and he met with PFT, Pro Football Talk Live, last week on Radio Row, and here's what Jacobs had to say about being paid.
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to get franchise tagged. I mean, I feel like nobody really do. But to me, I wouldn't mind it if, they got the right guys in the building around us, like they got some guys on defense figured out the quarterback situation, got some guys up front. Then I would be like, okay, I really wouldn't mind coming back, on a franchise tag. But if you want me to come back and be the hero, then you have to pay me like a hero.
I love that. If you want me to play like a hero, pay me like a hero.
Pay me like a hero, damn it.
Pay that man his money. Like, if you're going to give me the rock like 30 times, if this offense is going to be pretty much completely orchestrated by me, then you better pay me like it.
Basically, he's saying if you don't get a franchise quarterback, I'm all you got.
Yep. And if you're going to put a team around me, and if we're going to go for a championship, then I'll be fine with the franchise tag. Short of that, if this thing is on me, if I am the offensive machine, I mean, he was terrific this year. Like, I want to get paid. I want to get paid like I'm the guy. So there you go.
Pay that man his money.
Thursday said what? I'm going to cut it short because I got to get to something with Ramie. So today is Valentine's Day.
It is.
And so I walked into the studio.
Yes, sir.
And Ramie said, I'm lucky because Emily, she's not really the biggest Valentine's Day.
No. I said not.
She's not the biggest fan of
not
flowers.
big on flowers.
She's not big on flowers.
Yeah.
And I said to Ramie, well, do you really know if she's a fan of flowers or not? Is she just telling you she's not a fan of flowers because she's testing you? Because I don't need flowers, honey. I'm not really worried about.
I'm not doing anything.
I know, but if you don't give her flowers, this is your first Valentine's Day.
No,
together.
second. We were together last Valentine's.
Were you?
Yeah. It's been a little over a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were just under a year. But
October was a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you think that
Did I
she's
get flowers last? I don't think I got flowers.
I
last
feel like she's
Valentine's.
setting you up to fail.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm grabbing a bunch if it's me. I'm gonna play it safe, Ron.
Just to be safe,
yeah,
JJ?
you gotta be on point, man. You can't walk in that house and don't. I mean, I got what you're saying. It sounds like you've already blessed Emily with a few gifts and all,
Yeah.
but you gotta at least test the waters and let her, let her show you her hand before you show her your hand.
I got a few little things.
I'm not gonna say anything about Valentine's Day because people.
It's over the top, Dick. I'll say it for you.
Why not celebrate love?
It's over the top.
Look, is it
super over? It's made up.
Is it contrived?
It's fraudulent.
Created.
It's a fugazi holiday, whatever we call it.
I'm not saying anything.
To sell chocolate and cards.
I'm not saying anything
And
you guys
flowers.
are saying is wrong.
And flowers are gonna be dead within a week and a week.
That's why
5 days.
Outrageous.
That's why we both don't like flowers.
And by the way,
yes.
why is it?
Uh-huh.
Why is it just the female holiday?
Yes.
What do you mean? It's not. She's doing something for me. She's a little.
Yeah, my wife did something for me.
But I feel like the scales are tilted here.
Like they won't be in trouble.
Like they'll do something. So they'll get you they'll get you like a card or something small.
Right.
You're expected to like have a big dinner or get like a dozen or 2 dozen of roses, a big fluffy teddy bear.
See, this is why I don't why I don't need the flowers, because I'm about to say what I'm about to say. It's your opportunity, Nick, to treat your girl. It's not an obligation. It's your opportunity to make her a big dinner and get her a nice gift.
You've been together for a year,
do
right?
something nice.
Talk to me after almost 2 decades. Then we'll talk about obligations.
Laces to the shoes, Nick.
Then we'll talk obligations.
It's not that you have to. You get to, Nick, make that big meal.
My man is just trying to earn so many points right now. It's embarrassing.
She must be on the line on YouTube. She must got her vision on Ramie.
We go to break. He's gonna be like, I believe none of that.
And I'm not muting anything.
It's an opportunity. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how you see
Can't wait.
Oh, yeah, I could hear the excitement in your voice. It's taking over.
Hey, I want that surf and turf dinner too.
Can't wait.
Are the Kings too reliant on the 3? We'll answer that coming up.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
For your everyday vehicle. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP oil filter.
I'm Simone. Those are your headlines. Now back to Cattles and Ramie.
With you 1 mile at a time during the afternoon drive. Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Jeff Howe of The Athletic joining us in just over 10 minutes. Lots of new hires in the NFL. Cover some of that. You know, Ramie, throughout this season, we've had some listeners text in, chat on YouTube, call in and say, hey, Kings are way too reliant on the three-point ball. Way too reliant. And I saw this tweet this week from Will Z. The Kings have had 6+ players shoot at least 35% from three in a game 7 times this year. So 6+ players shoot at least 35% from three in a game. It's happened 7 times this year for the Kings. They are 7-0 in those games. They have scored an average of 138.1 points in those games. I.e., this offense is simply unstoppable.
It's a lot of points
when these guys are knocking threes down above 35%. I mean, I think that is the case for a lot of teams that shoot a good number of threes, but that is especially the case with this team. Ramie, do you think the Kings are too reliant on the three ball?
Well, I mean, what's too reliant on the three ball in 20?
That it's getting in the way, I would say, of running offense, that it's getting in the way of progress.
No, I mean, in 2023, I don't think that's a thing. I mean, it's not just some like rough shot thrown together, you know what I mean? Guys running up and down the court and launching up threes, you know what I mean? We talk to Jay Triano once every 2-3 weeks, who's one of the main architects of their offense and one of the guys who sort of designs it and puts it all together. And he's talked to us about what they want from that offense, Nick. And he's also pointed out to us that it's kind of a living, breathing thing. That it's not some stagnant, like, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do this every night. It's dependent somewhat on what the opponent throws at you. It's dependent somewhat on who's hot, on how many guys are hot on a given night or during a certain stretch. I look at the Kings and I see a modern basketball team. You know, I see a 2023 NBA basketball team built almost the way that it has to be built, unless you have like a dominant, really dominant force down low, like a Joel Embiid or a Giannis, somebody who's that dominant around the basket, who you can run the offense through. Then almost every successful NBA, and heck, even those two teams, they surround those guys with three-point shooters because of the attention that they draw to the basket. I got no problem with it, Nick, because most of the time when I'm watching the Kings and I see all those threes flying, I don't see a lot of bad shots. Are there bad shots? Sure. Guys are going to make bad decisions. They're going to chuck up shots that they shouldn't. Malik Monk is probably the most guilty of that, or more often guilty of that than anybody else. But I see a coherent offense when I watch the Kings.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go cold and shots aren't falling, but I feel like it's all within the framework of a coherent offense.
I like that you said it's not the amount of shots, it's the quality of shots. It's the amount of good looks, right? If you're getting good looks and guys are just missing, then guys are just missing. You can't really do anything about that. And I think some fans, understandably so, they're just watching the game play out and they get frustrated if your team's not shooting well. And they're not necessarily totally focused on, well, was that the right shot? Did you get to the right shot in the right way? Are you touching the paint and spraying it out, for example? Or are you just taking a crazy three after dribbling down the clock for, 15, 20 seconds? Those two things are very different. It's not the amount of shots. It's the amount of good looks. Now, I will say this. They are not too reliant unless they fail to adjust. And what I mean by that is there have been some games, and it was mostly early in the year, where they were shooting bad and they just try to shoot themselves out of it. And at a certain point, if you are capable of adjusting, then adjust. And I've seen that. I've seen that the past month or so from this team. I saw it against Houston when they were not shooting great. They said, okay, we're going to attack the rim. And that's what you see, right? We saw it against Dallas. Okay, we're not knocking down the three consistently here. Let's attack. If you're doing that, if you're acknowledging that the shots aren't falling on a given night, and you are able to adjust your offense and go with more of a paint attack and get deeper paint touches for Domas, which I still want to be the case. I still think they can do a much better job of getting Domas deep paint touches, but they have shown the ability to adjust. So as long as they're doing that, because as you mentioned, Ramie, shooting the three ball is what the NBA is. It's not like the Kings are shooting way more than anybody else.
They're not reinventing the wheel here.
They're 7th in three-point attempts. They're 7th in three-point rate, which is, the percentage of shots that you take. How many of those are three? So they're 7th in rate. They're 7th in attempts. And it's not like they've been awful. Now, look, they have absolutely fallen back. De'Aaron Fox has fallen back big time from his hot start.
Yep.
Herter has fallen back and been much more inconsistent the last couple of months. Malik has been very, very inconsistent. Keegan's been mostly really good. But they're still, even with the struggles that we've seen over the past 4 to 6 weeks shooting-wise, this team is still 10th in three-point percentage. So they're still a top 10 three-point shooting team, even though they've gone through those mighty struggles over the past, several weeks.
And they're still the highest scoring team in the Western Conference.
Right.
I mean, I'm looking at it now. They're the highest scoring team in the entire NBA in points per game. So there was some regression almost inevitably coming for the Kings when you talked about the three-point shot and just the volume in which they were scoring. But even with that regression, they're still the highest scoring team in the NBA. And they're still almost putting up 120 points a game. It's not as consistent as it was earlier in the year, but like I said, that was almost bound to happen when you look at how hot they were shooting and how often they were putting up these 125 and 130s on any given night.
And you're not watching this team, at least to me, I'm not watching the Kings on a nightly basis asking myself, what are they doing? What is happening? What are you doing? What's going on? Why would you take that shot? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? I see a team that's mostly running their system and a team that has been able to adjust on the fly, and they've recognized when things aren't going well, and they've tried to change it up in an attempt to score some buckets. And so as long as the machine, like your machine doesn't have to be running perfectly at all times, as long as it's running kind of correctly, right? Like as long as the engine is going and as long as they're trying to do the right thing, then I'm like, okay. Like Kevin Herter started off on a heater this year. He's not going to shoot 50% from three, folks, the entire year, right? Yep. Keegan's not going to shoot 50% from three all year long. There have been some bad shots and there have been some bad stretches. Malik is, I would say, pretty much the most guilty out of all of that.
Of shooting the bad shots.
And Jay Triano told us a couple weeks ago, like there was a game where he was wondering if Malik was playing for
the
Houston
team,
through the first three quarters. So there have been stretches, but that we've talked about it and how, my love-hate relationship watching Malik at times. I think a lot of people feel that way, to go through the Malik experience. But overall, man, big picture, I'd say that they mostly do the right thing. Now, they struggle against teams with length and all of that. We've seen that against Toronto, and they have a heck of a time turning the basketball over against busy hands. But overall, I don't think you can have many complaints about this team's offense.
I think this offense is refreshing, Nick, and honestly a pleasant surprise because I like the hire of Mike Brown when they brought him in, but I wondered what this offense was going to look like. I knew he came with the defensive pedigree, and that was something that he was going to try and instill in this team, and that's still a work in progress. But this looks nothing like his offenses that he's had at previous stops in Cleveland twice and Los Angeles in his brief stint there as the head coach. This is a completely different style of offense that you see Mike Brown running from his previous stints as a head coach, and I think that's a credit to him of going to Golden State and being open to learning new things and seeing where this league was going and adapting and evolving with it and bringing that with them here to Sacramento. I love what this offense is doing right now. I wouldn't I wouldn't change much for the sake of change. You have to make adjustments as teams adjust to you, and you have to change on the fly in that sense. But I have no problem with the style of play that the Kings go out there and run on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, again, as long as you're adjusting, if you go out there and you say to yourself, all right, we're going to run this offense the way we're going to run this offense, and we want 10 threes a quarter, we want 40 threes a game, and if we're not knocking the threes down, who cares? We want 10 threes a quarter, we want 40 threes a game, then that is a big issue. But if you're looking at, okay, the shots aren't falling right now. Let's get some deeper paint touches from Domas. And I'd also say, like, look at the roster, right? Like you also play the way your roster is constructed. And this roster does not have a ton of ISO scores, right? Guys that are going to say, give me the basketball, I'm just going to create on my own. Keegan's not that guy yet. Harrison really isn't that guy. You don't have upper echelon Foxes, but you don't have upper echelon elite ISO guys, creators. Right. So, and you don't have a ton of size, as we've seen. That's why you're playing so much small ball 5. So if your roster is dictating, hey, small ball 5, you're going to play smaller, you don't have a ton of guys that are going to be able to work off the dribble and create, then you're going to do what the Kings are doing offensively. You're going to take some threes, and you want to surround, your non-shooters, so to speak, or your lesser shooters with better shooters. So the way this team was constructed was off of the foundation, the basis that we are going to shoot. We're going to, off of Fox and Domas, especially Domas, 4 out, 1 in, we're going to play a lot of that. And we're going to have Domas facilitate the offense to our shooters who are going to be catch and shoot guys. So that's the way it was constructed. You don't want to try to fit a square peg in a round hole and say, no, we're going to force you to do something that you're not good at.
No, work to your strengths and take what your opponent gives you.
Precisely. Every NFL head coach vacancy has now been filled. Jeff Howe will join us to talk about that and more in 90 seconds.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown Sports.
Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRosa every week on Sactown Sports. Get the latest on equipment, area courses, people who play the great game, and plenty of good conversations about golf. It's the Golf to Go Hour every week with Frank LaRosa on Sactown Sports. Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop, America's most awarded golf facility. Nature Wood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
It's time to think about your tax refund. And Jackson Hewitt wants you to think biggest, as in, we guarantee you'll get your biggest refund or your money back plus $100. Who offers that? Come to think of it, nobody. It's one of the biggest guarantees out there and why you can't just file with anybody. For your guaranteed biggest refund, go to Jackson Hewitt today. Your wallet will thank you. When every dollar matters, it matters who does your taxes.
You don't have to look far to be inspired at Northern California's #1 Honda dealer, Stockton Honda. We take customer service to the next level. From our no-pressure sales and service to our great selection and financing options. Whether you're shopping online or in person, you'll see why our team is the #1 Honda dealer in Northern California.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
#1 claim based on 2022 total new and Honda certified pre-owned vehicle car sales from American Honda Motor Company Zone 1 report.
Cattles and Ramie.
Sactown
Sports.
4:15 on this Tuesday. Time check brought to you by Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. And for the last time, at least until free agency time or so, we got to get Jeff on for free agency. But the football season has ended, folks. And so for the last time, for now, we are joined by our friend at The Athletic, Jeff Howe. He's on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jeff, as always, we appreciate you. Let's start with Indianapolis. They hired Sacramento's own Shane Steichen as their new head coach today. How did the process play out, and what are your thoughts on that choice?
Well, they interviewed literally every human being on the planet over the course of multiple weeks and narrowed it down to Steichen. So it was a thorough process. It was certainly an interesting process. I mean, I think all signs, just from reading from the outside, all signs pointed toward Irsay really wanting to stick with Saturday. So the fact that they went with Steichen, who was one of the most qualified candidates going, or one of the more qualified candidates going into this hiring cycle, I think it's a solid hire, and we'll see how Steichen's able to build out his staff, what this delay might have cost in terms of like available assistance, but a really good offensive mind, a team that appears poised to draft and develop a quarterback after going the veteran route for so long. And what Steichen has done, or had just done, to help develop Jalen Hurts, I mean, that was a huge resume booster.
Was this them waiting for Steichen and the Eagles to be done with their playoff run, or was this Jim Irsay's interference with the whole process?
Yes. I think you can look at both. I mean, Irsay wanted to interview, again, every candidate under the sun, which is his right to do. But, you know, there are downfalls to taking or to being so deliberate with the process. Again, look at the amount of qualified assistants who have been hired. Sure. And, you know, I'm not saying that's what's happening with Indianapolis right now, but, you know, I've talked to coaches or executives in the past, and they've said, you know, they'll go through this interview process and we'll narrow it down to 3 guys. And this candidate will say, I've got X, Y, and Z lined up for offensive, defensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, whatever. And then the process takes a couple weeks, and all of a sudden those guys are off the board because they took another job. So that is a real factor. But if Steichen is their guy, if he was the one that they targeted all along, or at least was on their short list, you know, good for them. They got their guy.
Jeff Howe is with us here, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. Another hire in the NFL, Jeff, Jonathan Gannon, another guy from Philly, hired by the Cardinals. How much sense does that hire make to you?
Well, going into the start of this season, I started asking around front office types mostly about who is going to be on the short list of candidates going into this cycle. And before anybody had even played a snap, Jonathan Gannon's name came up quite a bit. So somebody who started to impress a year ago, and you look at what their defense did, the way that they were adaptable, their pass rush was historic. And granted, there was a lot of talent on that team, but Gannon's role in that was significant enough that he was on everybody's radar going into the season. The Eagles had a massive turnaround. I mean, increased their sack total by somewhere around 40. I can't remember if it was 39 or 41. And Gannon's done a phenomenal job. So the fact that the Cardinals also were able to wait this long and wait out Gannon, I mean, if he's their guy, then good for them.
Jeff, the controversial call at the end of the Super Bowl on Sunday, I have a hard time. My co-host, my cohort here called it a trash call. I have a hard time coming down hard on a referee when the guy himself admits, yeah, I held. I was hoping to get away with something. What was your take on that?
I hated the fact that such a great game came down to that call. I mean, because the writing was on the wall. As soon as that happened, the Chiefs are going to run out the clock, or a significant portion of it, kick the winning field goal, and the Eagles weren't really going to have a chance to answer. The thing that you want to go letter of the law. You know, those are the tough ones, because then you say, well, okay, why didn't you call offensive holding on like 90% of the rest of the plays?
Right.
This wasn't just the first defensive holding call of that Super Bowl. I just looked it up. So I'm glad you guys brought it up, because this research would have gone out the window. I just looked this up like 10 minutes ago. Schefter's crew had not called defensive holding. Now, I know the crews get a little mixed during the playoffs, but Schefter's crew had not called defensive holding since Christmas Eve. They went 3 full games without a defensive holding call. It would have been 4 full games if that call was let go at the end of the Super Bowl. So, yeah, was it defensive holding? Sure, it was, by the letter of the law. But when you're a defensive back and you are preparing for a crew to call a game a certain way, and it gets called that certain way for 59 minutes, 58 minutes, and then a call goes against you that's a borderline call, I mean, that's got to sting. And again, I thought it took away from what could have been a fantastic all-time caliber ending.
Jeff Howe from The Athletic on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline, Folsom Lake Honda one-stop Honda shop. Jeff, we look at the Niners coaching staff. Slovik's gone. Undland's now gone, both going to Houston. Should the Niners be concerned with too much brain drain at some point here?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a concern when you have this much success. I mean, I've seen it We've compared a lot of things over the course of this season to the Patriots and past examples there. I mean, you look at what the Eagles are going through now. It was similar to the Patriots losing Charlie Weiss and Romeo Crennel after the 2004 Super Bowl. You look at the Niners and losing. It's not just the coordinators. When you lose the coordinators, and you got guys that can develop. But when you start to lose a number of assistants, the coaching as a whole is going to suffer. So Shanahan, in my opinion, was the best coach in the league this season. And his staff is incredible. It has been incredible. He deserves the benefit of the doubt that he's going to be able to replenish a lot of that brain, the talent, the brains that have left that building. But it's tough. I mean, because the coaches who have left and brought guys with them, that's reinstalling a lot of this stuff. We talked a lot about young quarterbacks having to learn Shanahan's system. Depending on who he's able to bring in, if these aren't guys that he's worked with in the past or maybe doesn't have an extensive history with, now all of a sudden you've got a coaching staff who has to learn his system. And you've got to get the quarterbacks and the rest of the offense to buy into what these other assistants, I know it's going to be Shanahan's offense, but like what these other assistants are trying to teach. And if there's ever any miscommunication, you got some heads turning. So, yeah, there are problems that can arise. But right now, I mean, this is the first time Shanahan's really going through this as deep as it has been. And I'm interested to see how he's able to counter it.
We, Nick and myself, we were talking about a report earlier in the show that before Derek Carr was officially released today, the Raiders had kind of wanted to control and limit who he was able to go out and talk to about a potential trade and renegotiation of his contract. And Nick and I both found that counterproductive and felt like they shot themselves in the foot or cut their nose off to spite their face. How normal is that? Is that kind of par for the course when you have a situation like you have with the Raiders and Carr?
Well, I'm not saying that the report's not true because I don't know, but I had not heard that detail.
Okay.
This is actually the first I'm hearing of it. So what I know, all I can go off of is what I know. And that's the Saints were the only team that showed interest in acquiring Carr because of the contract. The Saints wanted Carr to take a pay cut. Carr wasn't willing to do that. So that's why he informed them that he was not going to accept a trade to the Saints. It just was a non-starter with other teams. And going back a couple weeks, going back to around like Senior Bowl time, teams were willing to wait it out because they didn't want to trade for that contract. And that's how it played out over the ensuing couple weeks. It came to a head really on Super Bowl Sunday. And we saw the outcome that, at first blush, when they benched Carr, I was guilty of it as anybody. Like, I was speculating that, hey, you know what? This guy should be worth a first-round pick. Maybe at worst case, a second-rounder. I don't think I thought it all through. That was my speculation. It was wrong. But as you watched the process play out, nobody was willing to touch that contract when everybody kind of predicted this was going to be the outcome.
Jeff, you've been fantastic all football season, man. Let's circle back around free agency time. Until then, be well, you and your family.
I'd love to. Thanks a lot for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun this season, so I appreciate y'all.
All right, Jeff. Thank you, buddy. There goes Jeff Howe from The Athletic on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Do the Kings win tonight, Ramie?
Yes. Yes, they do.
You were ready for that, huh? Took you no time. Yes. Did
you want me to elaborate on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We don't have enough time to elaborate. Let's bring a W back for the All-Star break.
I got this.
It would feel nice to be 9 games above 500.
Let's go out on a high note.
All-Star break.
Let's signal those aliens one more time before we go into the All-Star break, huh?
No KD. We can make this happen. Thanks to JJ. Thanks to Simone. Ramie, great stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Hopefully my voice and throat get better.
Have a happy Valentine's Day, Nick.
I will, Ramie. You too.
Go home and celebrate love tonight.
Enjoy your surf and turf, my man.
Are you getting flowers, Ramie?
No.
All right.
Sticking to my guns.
Till
There'll be
tomorrow.
no flowers.
He's Ramie. I'm Cattles. We are collectively Cattles and Ramie on Sactown Sports.
Sure on the subject. You sure? You know we got your back like chiropractic. If that do you dirty, we'll wipe her out as in detergent. Now hurry, go on to the altar. I know you ain't but remember what I taught you. Keep your heart 3 stacks. Keep your heart. Hey.